Hi everybody, it's Russell with Ink and Paper Blog again. Thank you for tuning in to my fourth video. As I said a couple of videos ago, I was going to break down my January and February 2000 TBR into two videos because I had bought so many books to start the year. In this video I'm going to talk about 10 more. Most of them came out in January and February of this year. A few of them came out in the late part of 2016, and then I think one of them or two of them maybe from 2014, but I found them in January and February, so they may be older, but to me they're brand new, so I hope they excite you like they did me when I found them. So to get started, because I have a couple of books to talk about, let's start with this one. This is Pachinko by Min Jin Lee. I actually got to meet Miss Lee. She did a speaking engagement at Stanford University in Palo Alto, and I have to tell you, she was great. She was very sweet. She's super bright, super endearing, and super passionate about the topic that is this book. I guess it took her about 10 years to write it. I didn't know anything about it. I'm going to read you the inside and then kind of tell you a little bit about what she said that just kind of makes me want to stop what I'm doing right now and read this book. So Pachinko is the story of a Korean family. It follows them through the generations. It starts in 1900s Korea with Sunja, a prized daughter of a poor yet proud family whose unplanned pregnancy threatens to shame them. Betrayed by her wealthy lover, Sunja finds unexpected salvation when a young tubercular minister offers to marry her and bring her to Japan to start a new life. And it follows that family, it follows that family from the 1900s, I think through the 1950s, if not maybe a little bit longer, as they develop their life in Japan. Now, Min Jin Lee told us when we spoke to her that this is about Korean Japanese. And Korean Japanese are like a subset in the community, and there's this racism there against them. For a long time, for years, they couldn't hold Japanese passports, they couldn't get Japanese identification. They weren't considered Japanese. They couldn't be teachers. They couldn't be bank tellers. They had only certain jobs that they could do. The book is actually titled Pachinko is a Game, and this cover, hopefully you guys can see that, is beautiful. Let's start there. Is actually a game, like a gambling game, which makes a ridiculous amount of money in Japan. She gave us a number, but I can't remember it off the top of my head. But it's also kind of thought dirty and dark because it's run by the Korean Japanese. So I think that this book sounds really interesting. I don't know a whole lot about Japan. I've read only a little bit of Japanese literature, mainly Murakami, but every once in a while I sneak one in. So I think this book sounds really exciting. That's Pachinko by Min Jin Lee. The next book I'm going to talk to you about is actually by Kevin Wilson, and I read Kevin Wilson's first book, The Family Thing, years ago. I think it's been a couple of years since it's come out, and I really loved it. So when I joined Book of the Month, if you can see this is a Book of the Month club. If you don't know what Book of the Month club is, it's actually an organization where you can pay a fee, and every month they give you 5 choices, 5 books that you can choose from for your subscription fee. So it's almost like Audible, where you get a monthly credit and you get to go and pick a book. It's the same thing with Book of the Month club. But they have people who choose a special 5 books. And this book was the one I chose last year. I know Pachinko was actually one month one of their books. And a book I talked about before, Whatever Happened to Interracial Love, was also one of their books. So they have good taste, can you tell? Now, Perfect Little World is kind of a sci-fi sort of futuristic title. I think it sounds really interesting. It says, when Isabel Poole meets Dr. Preston Grind, she's fresh out of high school, pregnant with her art teacher's baby, and totally on her own. Izzy knows she can be a good mother, but without any money or relatives to help her, she's left searching. Dr. Grind, an awkward, charming child psychologist, has spent his life studying family, even after tragedy struck his own. Now, with the help of an eccentric billionaire, he has the chance to create a perfect little world. To study what would happen when 10 children are raised collectively without knowing who their biological parents are. He calls it the Infinity Family Project, and he wants Izzy and her son to join. Now, Family Fang was kind of an offbeat family drama as well, and it was funny. I think it actually came out as a movie with Nicole Kidman. I didn't see it because I'm one of those people when I really like a book. I may not see the movie if I'm worried what they'll do to it. But Perfect Little World sounds interesting. It sounds far-fetched enough, but not that unbelievable that it couldn't actually happen. And I think I don't know, I just think it's going to really make me think about what family means and how different that is. So that's Perfect Little World by Kevin Wilson. The next book actually came out in America recently, but it's been out longer in the UK. And I got mine because it won the Costa Prize. I think it's the Costa Prize. And Simon sent a note along with it to me that said, enjoy, my favorite book so far of 2017. I don't know if that's still holding up. He's read a couple books that he's really liked. So I know it's really high up in his esteem. This is Sebastian Barry's Days Without End. All I know about this book is it's about two men who enter the wars in the 1850s, the Indian War, and then later the Civil War, and their connection through that time period, and also they meet an Indian girl and kind of how that affects them. I know that Simon said that it made him very emotional, and he loved it, and I have four Sebastian Barry books on my shelf, and I haven't read them. So I figured if Simon was going to rave about this one, maybe this would get me into Sebastian Barry and I would read some of those that are on my bookshelf. So I'm really excited about Days Without End by Sebastian Barry. The next book I'm going to tell you about is actually a graphic novel of a book that I've read a couple of times and I recommend to a lot of people, and that's Kindred by Octavia Butler. Now, Octavia Butler was an African-American female science fiction writer in the late 70s, early 80s, when she was probably the only African-American female science fiction writer of any notoriety, which is sad. But she was really well thought of. Her books did very, very well. And Kindred is her story. It occurs in two time periods. The thing that makes it science fiction is that there's a little bit of time travel in it, but it's just really a mechanism. It's the story of Dana. She lives in the 70s. She is married to a white man. They're just moving into their first house together. And something happens and she time travels back in time to the antebellum South, where she is put in front of a boy who is drowning in a river, and she saves him. And it turns out every time moving forward in his life that this boy is in danger, Dana is brought back in time. Now, you can imagine as a black woman from the 70s, going back in time to the antebellum South would be very different. And even in the first time when she saves the boy's life, the way she's treated because of that it just blows her mind and blows, I think, her idea of what her life is going to be like. And she keeps going back and forth in this time period. So she gets used to being a slave. She creates relationships. And she finds out Rufus is important to her own life. And that's kind of what it's about. Now, it was turned into a graphic novel recently. And the art is just it's just stark. I think it's really pretty. But it's also a very violent book. So I have a feeling that it's going to be a pretty violent graphic novel. I just heard this talked about on the Literary Disco podcast, so I'll link them below. So if you want to listen to someone else's view of this book as well, I would definitely do that. A lot of ums and uhs there. I apologize. But I would definitely recommend, if you haven't read Kindred by Octavia Butler, picking it up. But if you want to try it in a different format, here's the graphic novel. I'm going to read it. I really am excited about it. I think it's going to be really good. I love the book. Highly recommend it. Go out and get it, okay? The next book I picked up mainly because of the cover. For some reason, I was really drawn to the cover of The Summer That Melted Everything by Tiffany McDaniel. I've never read Tiffany McDaniel. I think this may be her debut, actually. I'm not even sure. But I just bought it because of this and the fact that it's about Sal, who appears out of nowhere and says to this town that he's the devil. And he has been invited to this town. Now, a local lawyer adopts him and thinks he's just a boy running away from a farm. But the town isn't all that excited about the devil coming to visit. So is he really the devil? If he is the devil, who invited him? Who asked him to come? And kind of the implications of that. I think it sounds really interesting. I have an idea of what should be like, which I think is going to be fun if it even turns out like that at all. Part of me thinks The Music Man. I don't know why. Like this guy who comes uninvited to wake up this town. So I hope that there are no musical numbers. But that's The Summer That Melted Everything. I think it's going to be really fun by Tiffany McDaniel. I'm not going to talk a whole bunch about the next book that I picked up because I think it's kind of been talked about everywhere, but that's Lincoln in the Bardo by George Saunders. Now, I've never read George Saunders. I've had his short story collection, 10th of December, on my shelf for a long time. I don't love short story collections, and I have to be really in the mood to read them, but Lincoln in the Bardo is his first novel, and I know it's based upon Abe Lincoln's son, who died, I think, at 11. And it all is set in a graveyard, from what I know. The other thing I know about it is it's currently an audiobook with 166 known narrators. So that intimidates me. I will not listen in on audiobook because if I have to think that hard, I can't think I'm going to enjoy it. Just apologizing, Berkeley is in the room, and he just got up and shook, so if you hear him, he's definitely getting up and ready. I don't know what he wants. Hopefully he'll be quiet for the rest of the video. But this is Lincoln in the Bardo by George Saunders, and I am excited to read it. It's actually my virtual book club book, so I'm excited to read it, but I'm also nervous about it because he is very avant-garde, and I don't know exactly what that means, but I'm definitely going to do it, so... that's Lincoln in the Bardo by George Saunders. Hopefully it will be good. Hi. So, sorry about that. Berkeley is taking no answers of don't pay attention to me. The next book I'm going to talk about is The Accusation by Bandi. I don't know how many of you have heard of this book. I don't even know where I heard of this book. But I do know that it's a short story collection, but the reason I bought it was because it's written by a man or woman, we don't know, it's actually a anonymous writer from North Korea, and that the stories were actually snuck out, and the person still lives in North Korea and plans on doing more writing. I read The Orphan Master's Son by Adam Johnson that won the Pulitzer a couple years ago about North Korea, and it was fascinating. He got to travel there. I can only imagine what this book is going to teach me. So I don't want to know a whole lot about what the stories are about. I just want to read it, and I just want to learn. I'm hoping it's good. I think it's going to be exciting. Even if it isn't, how great is it that there's something out there from North Korea that's fiction? So that's The Accusation by Bandi. I can speak English, I promise. The next two books are those two books I told you that I think have been out a little while longer, but I hadn't seen them. They're both Europa editions. Europa is probably my favorite independent little publisher. Everything I buy from them is weird and quirky and dark or not dark. It's just, I just love everything I've ever read under them. The only thing I have read by them that I didn't like was The Brilliant Friend by Ferrante. I was just not a fan of that book. I'm not sure what all the hype is about, but I've loved everything else I've read by them, so I picked this one up. This is Mayumi and the Sea of Happiness by Jennifer Tseng. I don't know how to say that last name, but I apologize, Jennifer. And this book is dark. I'm just going to let you know right now. And I'm going to read it to you. It says, 41-year-old discontented wife and dutiful mother, Mayumi, is a librarian on an island off the coast of New England. Who doesn't like a book about a librarian, right? Her work feeds her passion for reading and provides her with occasions for wry observations on human folly, but it does little to remedy the dullness of her daily routine. Indeed, her most sensual pleasures come from the books themselves. This is until the day she issues a library card to a shy 17-year-old boy and swiftly succumbs to a sexual obsession that subverts the way she sees her work, family, and the island she lives on, and ultimately herself. So I think that sounds really interesting, dark, but also it's about books and how they can fill a need. And I'm really excited about it. And that's Mayumi and the Sea of Happiness by Jennifer Tseng. So I hope some other people pick it up and support Europa. I really like them. The next book is also a Europa edition that I bought solely for the cover. And I don't think it does it justice on camera. To Name Those Lost by Rohan Wilson. I'm really interested in books from Australia or that area of the world. I don't know much about literature from there. I just read The Natural Way of Things by Charlotte Wood, I think is the name of it, which won the Stella Prize from Australia. and I really, really enjoyed it. So I've been trying to add more Australian literature to my day-to-day. This book is about 1874 Tasmania, and it's about a man that's trying to find his 12-year-old son who doesn't have his mom, but he's also being chased by a man who he owes money to, who has like kind of this henchman that has some weird secret. But Tasmania in Australia at this time was a land of thieves and drunks and a place where criminals were put, so it's very dangerous as he searches for his 12-year-old son. So I think that sounds really good and interesting. I think the Kirkus review note says it's a fast-paced, hard-nosed fable about revenge, pursuit, and the search of a moral compass. So I think that sounds really good. That's Rohan Wilson's To Name Those Lost. So I think that's good. I'm excited for that one. The last book I bought, mainly because I think I need to read more stuff that comes from like a fairy tale angle, and because I'm always enjoying those books when I read them, but I don't pick them up very often. And then I saw, where did I see it? I think I saw it in a Books Inc., but I'm not sure. And that's The Bear and the Nightingale by Katherine Arden. I think the cover's really pretty. And I'm going to read to you what this one's about, because I think it's just so well put. So, at the edge of the Russian wilderness, winter lasts most of the year, and the snowdrifts grow taller than houses. But Vasilia doesn't mind. She spends the winter nights huddled around the embers of a fire with her beloved siblings, listening to her nurse's fairy tales. Above all, she loves the chilling story of Frost, the blue-eyed winter demon who appears in the frigid night to claim unwary souls. Wise Russians fear him, her nurse says, and honor the spirits of house and yard and forest that protect their homes from evil. After Vasilia's mother dies, her father goes to Moscow and brings home a new wife. Fiercely devout, city-bred, Vasilia's new stepmother forbids her family from honoring the household spirits. The family acquiesces, but Vasilia is frightened, sensing that more hinges upon those rituals than anyone knows. So I think that sounds really good. I think when I think about Christmas stories, I think about all the Jack Frost Christmas stories. I wonder if I can get you a better look on this side. So I kind of know who Jack Frost is, and I'm kind of excited to see the Russian interpretation. I like that it's going to be dark and a fairy tale. So Berkeley, hey, you want to come say hi? I'll introduce you guys to Berkeley. Come here. Come on. So Berkeley is our other boxer. Come here, all the way in so we can see you. There we go. And he's our rescue. We've had him for about 2 years. He was really abused. We picked him up from West Coast Boxer Rescue that does a lot of amazing work here in California, Oregon, and Nevada. He had been starved and shoved in a box, and he just needed a good home. He's our special child. He has all sorts of issues, but what he is more than anything is a daddy's boy. Isn't that right? And he is great, and we really love him. And Berkeley, come on, say hi. Say hi. So that's Berkeley, and sorry that took a little bit longer. I hope you enjoyed it. This video is almost 18 minutes long, or actually just going over 18 minutes. So I appreciate you spending some time with me. I hope some of those books wind up on your TBR. Please, comments below. Let's talk about them. I'll list them all below. It was really great to talk to you guys again. I'll see you soon. Talk to you later.